Hello and welcome to Sports Talk in the Burgh on this beautiful Wednesday, March 24th. I'm Sam Dutch and I will be your host for the evening. Joined by me tonight are sports enthusiasts and experts Nate Breisinger, Tyler Gallo, and John Hanna. As I'm sure you at home know if you're a baseball fan or even just a calendar owner, this is March. The first two rounds of March Madness have rolled along, with the rounds of 64 and 32 now complete and already one of the most surprising tournaments in recent history. Tyler, what has been the most shocking upset in your mind?
Well, let me first preface this by saying, in the legendary words of John Rothstein, this is March. And, you know, in the year of upsets, I have to go with Abilene Christian. While you can say that Oral Roberts has been the shocking one.
They have. They made it to the Sweet 16.
But it helps when you have the leading scorer in the nation, Max Ace.
Yes, it does help. You know, if they didn't make it this far, they would not have the leading scorer in the nation anymore. So I think the fact that they've been able to not only upset number 2 Ohio State, but also number 7 Florida, that just shows how good of a team they are as the 15 seed.
Well, Abilene Christian, by the way, they rolled 3-seed Texas, which is no tough task or no easy task. And while Shaka Smart has never won a tournament game since joining Texas, that's still a tough team to beat. And their leading scorer averaged less than 12 points per game during the regular season, and the guy that iced the game with 2 free throws shot 59.6 from the line in Joe Pleasant.
Well, you talk about Abilene Christian, they were 24-5 during the regular season. My pick, Oregon State, upset 2 really good teams in this tournament. Tennessee, Oklahoma State, number 4 seed in Oklahoma State, has the projected number 1 pick in Cade Cunningham. Oregon State, they won the Pac-12 championship, but they're rolling along here. They were only 10-10 in conference during the regular season, but they are a team that can go, I think they could go to the Final Four. Their side of the bracket isn't as strong. Houston or Syracuse is their next matchup if they win. So I think this is a team that's been the most shocking. I know Oral Roberts has upset a couple good teams, but Oregon State has played really well.
Yeah, and Abilene Christian, they finished second in the South on this
My
season.
problem with Abilene Christian, they won 1 game. Do you know
they won 1 game.
Do you know how many 14 seeds have beaten 3 seeds in NCAA history? 21. Do you know how many 15 have beat 2 seeds?
Nope.
9.
9?
9 is a better number than 21 when you're talking upsets.
Despite the upsets, one of the most exciting parts of March Madness is building your bracket and making predictions, even if mine is already a hot mess. John, who do you think wins it all for the 2021 March Madness tournament?
Well, Sam, just like you, my bracket is trash right now. I mean, I had Iowa winning, but my pick to win right there, orange and blue, it's Syracuse. They're the 11th seed, but they are a tournament team. In the 3 times they've made it to the tournament as a double-digit seed, they've made it to the Sweet 16 or farther. They made the Final Four in 2016. And this team, it's the zone. No one can figure out the zone in postseason time. It seems like they beat San Diego State 78-62. They beat West Virginia 75-72. They play Houston, as you guys mentioned earlier, and Buddy Boeheim has become an offensive weapon, averaging 27.5 points per game in this.
Look, yeah, Syracuse is a tournament team. You know, I think they could potentially go far, but my pick, Oregon, again, shying away from any of the favorites. Gonzaga, Baylor, no, I'm going with Oregon.
Well, you know what, Nate?
They had
another Nate in this tournament is Nate Oates, and he is my cousin Vinny, and I'm gonna have to go with the Crimson Tide. This season, it was a close game.
The SEC is a football conference.
Yeah, and an inferior opponent in Iona. It was a bit of a close game, but they thoroughly lambasted Maryland in the second round, and they're only going to get even better as Jordan Shackelford and Nate Oates is a match made in heaven.
Well, Maryland wasn't that good. Oregon upsets number 2 Iowa. Luka Garza, back-to-back Big Ten Players of the Year. He was very good. He's been very good all season.
However, you're forgetting Oregon didn't play. VCU had COVID. They didn't have to.
Yeah, well, that helped them. It was probably the best defensive battle in college basketball history.
So if they ran into VCU, they probably would not be in the position they are right now.
Best college defensive basketball game in college history. But Oregon, they played really well. 15 points they beat Iowa by. So they're my pick to win.
Well, we'll just have to see who wins it all. But in football, NFL free agency leaves the Steelers without Bud Dupree, Mike Hilton, Tyson Alu, and Matt Byler, but retaining Cam Sutton and, surprisingly, Juju Smith-Schuster. John, what loss will hurt the Steelers the most?
I think it's going to be Mike Hilton, simply because if you look at the defensive back situation right now, Joe Hayden, Cam Sutton, James Pierre, and Justin Lane. That is not a winning group in the defensive back situation. I know you still have Minkah Fitzpatrick. However, those corners are going to get burned. Joe Hayden, not getting any younger. Cam Sutton, I know I talked about him a couple weeks ago on the show, but he's more of a slot guy. So you need that cornerback number 2. And I think Mike Hilton, he got 4 years, $24 million from the Bengals. Maybe a bit pricey depending on who you think, but last year, 3 interceptions, 1 forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries. I think Mike Hilton's going to be tough to replace on this team.
I agree with you a bit there, but I think you got to go with Bud Dupree as the biggest loss because, look, 4 straight seasons that the Steelers have been tied or lead the league in sacks, and Bud Dupree was a huge part in that for the Steelers.
Right, and you can't just replicate 8 sacks and 23 solo tackles like you had last season. That's going to be a lot of holes to plug in on defense, especially losing Bud Dupree, who's a very talented player.
And Bud Dupree, I mean, he's a guy, yes, T.J. Watt has been exceptional on the other side, but the two of them
how much of Bud Dupree's stats are because of T.J. Watt?
Well, Bud Dupree, yes, I mean, T.J. Watt has obviously helped Bud Dupree in, taking the pressure off of him, but Dupree is still a guy that can get back to the quarterback, 11.5 sacks 2 years ago. He's a guy that's going to potentially be very good for the Titans.
I mean, he did nothing until T.J. showed up.
But he had a slow start in his career, but still he came around and turned out to be a very good player for the Steelers. And this loss could hurt them. Alex Highsmith, 2 sacks over the games he played. He's not putting up that production that Bud Dupree played.
Speaking of all the changes, should the Steelers have resigned Juju? Steven Nelson is also now gone after being cut. Nate, what is the worst move that the Steelers have made this offseason?
Look, I honestly, as much as Juju is a nice guy, but I think he's the one I think I'd look at and saying they should have not brought him back. See, it's a prove-it deal, one year, $8 million.
I don't mind the Juju simply because it is that prove-it deal.
And
I know he left more money on the table in Baltimore, and I believe Cincinnati also gave him more money, but he came back to the Steelers. So I don't mind that it's a prove-it deal. However, I think it's Ben. I know Ben, obviously. This move, re-signing Ben, shows they think they're in a win-now mentality. They're not in a win-now situation.
John, Ben, honestly, though, I don't think there was any reason other to bring him back other than Pittsburgh continually holding on to their greats, much like other city Philadelphia does. But, I mean, the bottom line is there were plenty of other options on the market for a quarterback this season. Why hold on to one that's
even in the
back?
draft, guys like Kyle Trask.
They didn't re-sign him. They restructured his contract. Juju was completely re-signed. He was a free agent on the market. He was a guy they did not need to bring back. They have plenty of depth at the wide receiver, the core, Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, James Washington.
I think, obviously Juju is not number 1 receiver. He's a very solid number 2, and if Claypool continues to make the progress he's made from his rookie season.
Well, that won't happen after he kicks somebody in the face in California. That's going to be a tough thing to recover from. So, I mean, look, Juju is a solid wide receiver. There's no doubt about that. That was a good, but having Ben continually stay around is showing that this team is not ready to make that next step.
Also, Juju was plagued throughout. There was reports that came out that Juju all last year had a nagging knee injury. Again, you don't need a guy on your team who's potentially injured. Yes, Ben, had a down year, but
Ben Roethlisberger is your quarterback if you don't want injury prone. Ben missed pretty much the entirety of 2 seasons ago.
And now, waddling on over to the ice, the Penguins currently sit in 3rd place behind the Islanders and Capitals in the East Division standings. John, who has been the most impactful player for the Pens since Hextall took over and the team took off?
Well, it has to be the last line of defense. Tristan Jarry has been phenomenal in net for the Pens. Before Ron Hextall was hired, 2-4-1 record, .857 save percentage, 3.95 goals against. Since Ron Hextall was hired on February 9th, 10-4-1 record, .927 save percentage, .239. And it's just night and day. I don't know what happened when Ron Hextall came in.
The way their defense has struggled over the last one, it's almost a miracle that Jarry's played this well. In my opinion, it's got to be.
Sorry to interrupt you, but a couple weeks ago, we were calling for his head on this show. Colby Sherwin was sitting right where you are, Tyler, and was saying they need to trade for Jake Allen from Montreal.
Right, so my pick is going to, well, as Lil Wayne once said, real G's move in silence like lasagna, and that's exactly what Jake Gensel has done this season and the last couple seasons in the NHL. I mean, he's got 30-plus points, a quietly great season. He gets consistently underrated by media, as Crosby and Malkin are always going to be ahead of him. But Gensel has been really, really good. In his last 5 games, he has 6 points.
Look, I think all 3 of our picks are pretty, solid choices. but you have to go with the cornerstone of this team, Sidney Crosby. 23 of his 30 points have come since Hextall and Burke were hired, and this team has taken off with Crosby. And I know you talk about Jari and that.
Crosby can score all he wants. If if Tristan Jari's letting in 4 goals a game like he was pre-Hextall, they're not winning games. You can't win games letting in 4 a game, no matter how much, unless you score more than 4, which they obviously weren't doing pre-Hextall.
I don't disagree, but their offensive production was down. Crosby has ramped it up, along with Gensel, Brian Rust. All these guys have turned into, really big pieces as the last couple weeks have gone by. But Crosby, 30 points leading this team. He's your guy that leads you into battle every single night, and he's the guy that's taken off since Hextall and Burke have been hired.
All of these players are certainly beneficial for the Penguins, but are you ready for this one? The Pirates are finishing up spring training with opening day April 1st, which is not a joke, against the Cubs. Give me one bold prediction for the 2021 season that will make your fellow panelists grasping for a debate, but one you could actually see happening and not just straight out of left field. Tyler, you're up at bat.
Well, even though it was in a shortened season last year, I think Jacob Stallings is going to continue to prove why he's one of the best defensive catchers in the league. He almost won the Gold Glove last season. I think he takes that.
It's not a bold prediction if he continues something.
Yeah.
Well,
Also, it's
he's
defensively.
going to win the Gold Glove. I'll say that he's going to win the Gold Glove. You want to know why? He's 4th in catcher defensive adjustment, which is one of the best defensive metrics to judge a catcher by, and best in errant pitches above average, which he blocks and frames well, better than pretty much any other catcher in the league. He ranked in the top 10 in framing.
All right, come on. This is a bold prediction, and you're picking a defensive player, and on a really underwhelming Pirates team. Come on, Todd Frazier, the oldest player on this team. Yes, he was signed to the minor league deal, but he will be on the opening day roster.
You're talking competitive.
30 home runs.
You're talking underwhelming.
Frazier played for the Mets for the past 2 seasons.
I'm going to say
absolutely none of that.
They're going to be competitive. I'm not quite saying they're going to go full wild card or win the championship, as the graphic shows right there, but they're going to be competitive. They're projected to only win 57 games by USA Today, but right now, I know it's only spring training. They're 11-10 in the Grapefruit League. Ke'Bryan Hayes has been
Grapefruit League, John. But you can't
but they're playing against
the
equal
NL Central
competition.
is one of the worst divisions in baseball. So they could.
Yeah, what do you want them to play in the Cactus League?
Well, look, stats mean absolutely nothing in spring training. We already know that. But when they get into the league, I will say this though: NL Central, one of the worst divisions in baseball, so they could be competitive this season.
Look, and to be competitive though, you need someone to step up. Todd Frazier, 35 years old, he's putting up 30 home runs this season. That's my bold prediction.
Did that with the Mets the last 2 years.
Yeah, well, he had 21 and 18. Okay, but he's had 40 home runs. He's had 35 as well in his career.
Like 6 years ago.
So he still has the potential to with the pop in his bat.
We'll have to see if any of these predictions come true. But with the NBA and the NHL both in full swing right now, what athletes stood out to you most this week? Nate, who is your pro athlete of the week?
Well, guys, my pro athlete of the week out of the NBA, Giannis Antetokounmpo. He put together a really solid week, 29.7 points per game, 12.7 rebounds per game, averaging a triple-double. Milwaukee, 4-0 over the course of that week. He has continued to play really well for this Milwaukee team. They've been a little bit, not as solid as they've been in years past, but they've played really well.
I desperately wanted to go with Yannick Kuokkanen on the Devils. I was advised against that by my colleagues. I'm going to have to go with Victor Hedman. He's shed the oaf moniker I gave him in 2017 during the playoffs when he was just attacking everybody on the Devils. But 1 goal and 5 assists in his past 6 games, including a 3-assist performance, which would earn you a playmaker patch from USA Hockey. Fun fact, I have done that. But he's been playing really well for the team, and in that 3-assist performance against Chicago, that's
Sorry to interrupt, Tyler. I'm staying in with European players. I'm going Philip Grubauer, goalie for the Avs. 3 games played, 3-0-0 record. He earned his 5th shutout of the season in a 6-0 win against Minnesota. He had a .985 save percentage and a .38 goals against average. 65 saves on 66 shots. He's only allowed 1 goal in his past 3 games. He's my pro player of the week.
Thanks, guys, for all your thoughts on pro sports. After the break, we'll take a dive into college sports, so stay with us here as this is Sports Talk in the Burgh.
Over. Chance high five. All right.
When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique.
And your mother and I am totally a hot person. Right, guys? Thanks for being honest.
They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What? I can't drive. Why? My. Oh.
Stem is precise, no margin for error.
Dare to forget that. Dare to have fun with it. Get weird with it. Dare to send those old STEM theories flying past the neighbor's house into outer space. Dare to program something internet-breaking, record-breaking. Dare to blow their minds. Dare to learn the difference between sedimentary and metamorphic rock. Go find those rocks. Dare to keep daring. Dare to STEM. Check out She Can STEM to get started.
Welcome back to your Wednesday evening entertainment here at Sports Talk in the Burgh. Skating right along, RMU men's hockey finished off the 2020-2021 season with the home series loss to Niagara after winning the first game and being the #1 seed. Johns, who's to blame? Scully? Defense? Overtime?
Well, I think it's got to start from the top. It's Derek Scully. They outscored Niagara 20-9 in the regular season. However, they lost three games. Each one was, 1-goal game. First game was overtime. RMU won. Second game, double overtime. Third game was a last-second goal by RMU, might I add, to bring it to a 2-1 difference. However, in those 3 games, they took 10 penalties for 31 penalty minutes.
Another part of Scully's malperformance in this was he has the lack of center depth. I mean, he started Santeri Hartikainen at center, who was not at 100% coming off of injury, in a winner take all
you know who to blame for that? You know whose fault it is for not recruiting centers?
Derek Scully.
Start from the top. It's
right,
Derek
exactly.
Scully.
But I think he just needs to have a big recruiting offseason in terms of centers.
Look. There's a lot of fingers to point in this, and yes, you can say Scully from the top down on both of your guys' picks, but Scully had arguably the best start in program history this year. My reasoning for why they didn't do that well,
then he fell apart down the stretch.
Well, because they didn't have games down the stretch. They went 18 days without playing a game. They only played 4 times in the month of February.
AIC went almost a month, and they still won the Atlantic
AIC.
Hockey Tournament.
RMU men's hockey is going through a bit of a rebuild. Last year they were not good. This year they improved, tenfold from where they were, and they had a really good freshman class. This team, very young, and that's what hurt them with the lack of game action. That hurt them in the end. Niagara played recently, and they just had it to them. RMU just too rusty.
Certainly an upset with men's hockey, but now transferring to basketball. After originally posting his top 3 destinations, AJ Brahma announced his final 4 teams, now including Arizona State, for his transfer decision to be made on March 24th. Nate, what is the best fit for Brahma, and where would you like to see him end up?
Look, there were a few schools that he announced, and then he added Arizona State late to his teams of where he potentially would land. You guys have Nevada, St. Bonaventure, 2 teams that play in mid-major conferences. Well, St. Bonaventure, A-10.
Nevada is closer to home than these other teams.
Well, Arizona State is also near California.
Bonaventure has a need for Brahma, though. They really only had 2 big men this year, in Oshunashunasi and Jalen Shaw. Jalen Shaw barely scored. He had 1.4 points a game. St. Bonaventure also, they're returning everybody, barring any outgoing transfers. So I think that Brahma is able to fit in on this Bonnie's team. Bonnie's team, mind you, that won the A-10 tourney. They were the 9th seed. They lost to LSU, mind you. But they made the tourney. They proved that they are one of these up-and-coming teams.
Well, you talk about the Bonnies. They are a good second option, in my opinion, but I think Nevada's too good. They're no stranger to adding transfers. They have 5 listed on the roster right now, and they're losing a big man this season. But he left a glowing review in an interview about Nevada and the other teams. He just left a typical PR answer for. So I think Nevada is hits closer to home than anybody else.
Look, you talk about with St. Bonaventure making the tournament. Past 3 out of 4 years, Arizona State's made the tournament. Their big guys that they have there aren't very good. Brahma, 21 points per game this year. All their big men lower than 10 points per game. Arizona State wants him, and he's going to want that exposure in the Pac-12.
For this next question, I'll be sending it over to Colby at the RMU softball field. Colby?
Thanks, Sam. I'm currently at the softball field where yesterday they mercy ruled the Vikings twice in their doubleheader. And my question for you is, who is your favorite player to watch, and who's most important to the team? Tyler, can you knock this question out of the park?
Riggle are very safe picks, and in my opinion, and very good. And like, why wouldn't you pick Natalie Higgins? She's got 27 RBIs. I'm gonna have to go with the freshman offensive attack, specifically Charlotte Grover, who right now sits 4th in RBI with 9, and she's 7th in average among the qualifying players at 275. And she's 3rd on the team in home runs with 3.
Well, why would you even mention the freshman?
Because they haven't had something like this in the past 3 years. When they were in the NEC, they were a bottom-feeding team.
You mentioned Natalie
Higgins.
Higgins.
Up in the upper echelon of the Horizon League because they have a consistent offensive attack from the freshman.
You mentioned Natalie Higgins, and yet you still go with the freshman. Natalie Higgins does it all on the
Madison
offense.
Riggle, mind
exactly.
you. And Madison Riggle not only is on the offensive side of the ball, she's also been a good pitcher for them. 9 runs, 7 home runs this year, 265 average. But when you look at the plate, 3-2 record, 13 strikeouts, 265, which actually is what she's hitting, opponent batting average. So she's both good at the plate and on the rubber.
Well, I wouldn't say a 265 batting average against is a good on the rubber, John, but I will say this. She's come in the situations that she really needs to and pitched well. But I have to go with the freshmen. I mean, other freshmen on the mound, Jane Garver and Rachel Reinhardt, both 2 very good pitchers for this team as well.
Well, Higgins, again, does it all for the offense. Back-to-back games where they scored double-digit points. She has 27 RBI. She's 1 from tying her career single high in runs batted in and 2 from breaking it. She has done it all for this offense. 4 home runs also on the season. She is the one to watch. She's the explosive player that RMU softball has.
Now serving it over to the court, RMU Volleyball ended the season on a high note with 4 wins in a row, including former regular season champ Northern Kentucky, before dropping their final match of the year to NKU in Monday's doubleheader, with Emma Granger and Allison Lunda returning for an additional season and the development of Abby Ryan and Annie Monaco. Tyler, what should be the expectations for next season in year 2 of Horizon play?
Well, now that they have a full season of play in the Horizon League and Coach Dale Starr actually has tape on all teams he can play against, he can better adjust, and I think this team is going to make the jump to finish top 4 in the conference. Now, they played really well against the defending Horizon League champs in Northern Kentucky in that last series, unfortunately losing that last game, but it looked like the NEC team of old when they played against IUPUI. While they had a lapse in that first set of the series, they dominated the rest of the slate.
Look, I think it's like with any other RMU team right now, with everyone moving conferences. They needed that year to get in tune with what the Horizon League was like. Next year, they're making a huge jump. I have them distinctly finishing 3rd in Horizon League play. Ranger back, Wandog back.
I don't have quite a high jump. I have continuous improvement. Obviously, 4-12 this year. I think above 500.
John,
that's a good
by
jump
continuous
up.
improvement, what do you mean? Like, I was really impressed this season by Abby Ryan. Are you saying individual improvement or as a team they're going to improve?
I'm saying both. I think, obviously Emma Granger and Allison Londa are both key returners. However, they're still going to have to replace, Maria Alfano, who's graduating. They're going to have to.
Granger needs a full off season of rehab on that ankle. She never looked 100% this season.
With all the madness happening this March, many players are proving themselves in the NCAA. Who stands out to you the most? Nate, who is your college athlete of the week?
Well, I'm going with Buddy Buckets of Syracuse. This kid has, taken charge for his dad's team, leading Syracuse to another Sweet 16, 27.5 points per game, 56% from 3-point range. 30 points against San Diego State. He had 25 against WVU, the number 3 seed in the nation, upsetting both San Diego State and WVU. He has come to play, and he was step for step with Sean McBride of WVU. They were trading 3-pointers back and forth, and it was such an entertaining game to watch. Buddy Boeheim is helping this team, Syracuse.
He's only getting playtime because he's the coach's son.
Oh, come on. No.
I'm completely joking, but I'm going with Kevin Obenor out of Oral Roberts. He's 3rd in March Madness right now in points a game with 29. First among the players remaining. He had the game-tying free throws against Ohio State to send that game to overtime.
Those are very good picks, but I'm going to have to go with Cameron Krutwig. While he's not putting up the same amount of points for Loyola Chicago, he's averaging 16.7, and the rebounds he's averaging 9 rebounds per game.
Kevin Obenor is averaging 11.
But he's got 8.3 rebounds per game in tournament. So I think he's doing it all while not looking like your prototypical basketball player. So I think Cameron Krutwig is going to be my pick.
The only player from Loyola Chicago you should even consider is Sister Jean.
She's not a player.
Don't go anywhere. Coming up, our final takes from Nate, Tyler, and John. Stay right here. Don't move here at Sports Talk in the Burgh.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made her college years happen. Opening that education savings account when she was little. Spearheading a campus tour. And another, and another, and another, and another. Bam! Deciphering financial aid. She was like, what? But now she's like, you aced planning for college. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Jason, let's go see your room.
That's not right. How was it? Is it good?
Things could be stranger, but I don't know how. I'm going through changes now. Could spend a lifetime trying to figure it out. I'm going through changes, through all of the strangeness. I'm going through changes now.
Welcome back to Sports Talk in the Burgh. To wrap up the show tonight are your final takes. Up first is Nate. Take it away.
Thanks, Sam. While both the Robert Morris men's and women's hockey teams finished their seasons last week, with the men's hockey team getting bounced in the quarterfinals of the Atlantic Hockey Tournament and the women's hockey team losing in the first round of the NCAA tournament, I'm going to take an extremely early look at next season and predict that both of these teams make the NCAA tournament. Although the women's hockey team will lose two exceptional and program-defining skaters in Lexi Templeman and Emily Curlette, this team will be poised for another CHA championship, with Reagan Kirk backstopping the Colonials and the underclassmen stepping up. Now that's the easy one. However, the men's hockey team will have a harder path, but next year will be the year they make a return to the tournament for the first time since 2014. As they lose three seniors as well, the freshman class will be a program changer, with Randy Hernandez and Noah West leading the way. Both of these RMU squads have shown their potential, and next year it will all come to the forefront, as both these teams will make the NCAA tournament together in the same year for the first time in history.
Now, don't get me wrong, I love a good Cinderella story, but Loyola Chicago is not a Cinderella story. Porter Moser and company have been here before and were grossly underseeded by the NCAA, rolling the 8th seed for some reason. Following a season where they were 24-4 and dominated the MVC, they dispatched Georgia Tech in the first round, and then, playing the second overall seed of the nation, flexed their muscles against an Illinois team that just looked lost on the court. The Ramblers came into this tournament ranked 9th overall in the KenPom rankings, where every team in front of them besides USC was rewarded with a 1 or 2 seed. They also allowed 55.1 points per game, which is first overall in the nation and outranks higher-seeded teams such as Houston and Virginia. And the fact of the matter is, the NCAA needs to consider more factors when they seed teams, and Illinois had to bear the brunt of that unfortunate underseeding. In the wise but not verbatim words of Led Zeppelin, ramble on! The time is now for the Ramblers to sing their song into the Elite Eight.
Well, earlier today, the NHL announced that official Tim Peel would not work another NHL game after a hot mic during last night's Predators-Red Wings game caught him saying, quote, "It wasn't much, but wanted to get an effing penalty against Nashville early," end quote, following a penalty call on Nashville's Victor Arvidsson for tripping Detroit's John Merrill. In a statement from the NHL, Senior Executive Vice President of Hockey Operations Colin Campbell said, quote, "Tim Peel's conduct is in direct contradiction to the adherence that cornerstone principle that we demand of our officials and our fans, players, and all coaches and all those associated with the game," end quote. However, many other official and linesmen, if they do have the same feeling as Tim Peel, why did no other step in and interrupt him? There's 4 of them out there. Call him out. And that's worrisome for the NHL that one of their senior officials has these feelings. In my opinion, the NHL needs to go through a thorough analysis of their official staff and make sure that this sort of thing is mitigated in the future.
Well, first off, I want to start with Gallo, please never sing on the show again. That was kind of horrendous.
Please no.
But I want to go to your final take. I honestly think that it was a little too harsh that they went after Tim Peel and firing.
He wasn't fired. No, he wasn't fired. He's just not reffing game. He was going to retire at the end of the season anyway. So it's just a premature retirement.
Yeah, he can go ref games in his local rec league if he really wants.
Or D3. I'm sure he's better than some of your refs.
Better than some of the refs in the ACHA. Don't get me wrong. Sorry about that. But I'm going to say this: men's hockey hasn't made the tournament since 2014, as you mentioned. What makes you think it's going to all of a sudden make that big jump to something they haven't done in 7 years?
They only had 3 seniors. The underclassmen are going to step up, and I think they could be really good. Noah West, your goalie.
So. Who's in another center, though? Nick Perkusic. Well, for Sam Dutch, Nate Breisinger, Tyler Gallo, and I'm John Hanna. We'll see you in 2 weeks on Sports Talk in the Burgh.